What's up, VC? Erik the Viking here. Lovely sunny day in England. Got the day off work, which is cool. So I thought while I got time, I thought I'd post a video about English psychedelia. UK Psych. I'm big on the Psych scene. I like the Psych from all over the world, really. But obviously there's a huge amount of English stuff. Sorry, I got really itchy eyes, hay fever. I thought I'd show some of my UK Psych albums. I'm going to do an American one at some point as well. I just want to say, I know I say it all the time, but thanks for commenting and everything, guys. I'm glad you're all enjoying what I'm showing. VC is just awesome, you know. I know I say this all the time, but it's just funny. It took me such a long time to discover it, really. I mean, it's funny. I don't know why I didn't think of looking for people talking about their records on YouTube before. I just didn't think there'd be anything like that, I suppose. But there you go, this is great. So, Psych. I think I'll just show the albums and go through that way. Obviously, the whole psychedelic thing is a bit, real psychedelia is quite limited, you know. So I've picked some sort of stuff that was released around that time and does sort of get lumped into that category. Like, you'll see there's some stuff that I wouldn't say are strictly Psych albums, but I'd still put them in that sort of bag, I suppose. So yeah, first up, the legend Syd Barrett, Mad Cat Laughs, first album. I've got Pipe at the Gates of Dawn lined up as well in here. This is alphabetical, so absolutely love Syd Barrett. I mean, obviously this is quite an album because it's sort of in a way showcases his breakdown. You know, some parts of it are quite painful to listen to, but what a legend. He was like the coolest guy, you know. Yes, this is a lovely Harvest pressing. It's a slightly later one because it has the EMI box on the label. The very early ones don't, but it's the original sleeve because the sleeve is fully laminated, so it still must be quite an early one. Probably just a leftover sleeve they had in the factory or whatever. So yeah, that's that. Like I say, big fan of Syd. He didn't do much, but what he did was brilliant, and I'll talk more about him when I get to Piper. This is one that isn't strictly psychedelic, but again, it usually gets put in that category. Mantelpiece by Battered Ornaments. This is one of I love this album. It's funny. Years ago, I heard this. I used to chat to a guy who, obviously, when I was quite younger and was into all this music and buying records, people were quite, I suppose, interested because it was quite unusual for my age. And there was one guy that I bought a lot of Zappa records off. Anyway, he did me a tape of this album, so it was one of his favourites, and I absolutely loved it. Now, this is an American pressing, still on the Harvest label. The original English one is worth a king's ransom over here, as it is anyway, but it's still an original Harvest pressing, so this is still pretty rare, and you can get this for a hell of a lot cheaper. I mean, I got this for like $30 about 5 years ago. I think it's gone up a bit since then, really, but really good album, some really nice funky beats on it, and of course Pete Brown was originally in this band, who was mainly the lyricist for Cream, good friends with Jack Bruce. After Pete Brown left, they made this album, and Chris Spedding, the guitar legend, took the helm of the band, and he wrote the majority of the songs, and he sings them as well and plays guitar. It's a really odd album, but I'd recommend it, and I would say it's a funky psychedelic album. It's got jazz influences in there. But obviously, that's the thing about Psych. It's just a melting pot of all different things, really. That's how I see it. It's, the precursor to prog. So, really good album, that. Of course, I've got to show some Beatles. I am a big Beatles fan. I may do a Beatles video if many people want to see it. I haven't seen many Beatles videos on here, but I've got all their stuff. Of course, Sgt. Pepper's probably the most appropriate one for this video. Revolver's probably my favourite album, Revolver or Rubber Soul. But I love this album too. Funnily enough, not this copy, but I got a record player for my 6th birthday, and my mum and dad gave me Sgt. Pepper with it, and it was a completely battered copy, and it proceeded to get more battered because I didn't really know how to use a record player at the time. I also used to do crazy things like, it shows, I think, an early stage of me liking experimenting with sound. I used to scratch records deliberately to see how it would affect them. Obviously I wouldn't dare do that now, but yeah, I was only a kid. Anyway, this is a beautiful original mono English pressing. I still can't believe I have one of these in such nice condition. I don't know if you can see, but this is what people call the wide spine pressing, because the spine is wider. It is the very, very, very first edition, and you can also tell that by in the gatefold. I don't know if it's going to come out. It says 4th proof upside down there. Later I found out that's what the very first pressings were, and it's just a thicker sleeve, better quality. I got this in a charity shop for £1 years ago. As amazing as that sounds, it was amazing to get it then, because this is an amazing copy. It's got the cutouts, of course, really nice condition. Best of all, it's got the inner sleeve, which is in beautiful condition. Now obviously the inner sleeve is really hard to find in nice condition. There's no splits or nothing, and the original Parlophone label, the beautiful Parlophone label, and it really is, I mean, the record is mint. It's incredible. So, you know, this is one of my prized albums because it's just such a stunning example. You just don't see it. So that's a really nice one. And like I said, £1 in a charity shop. I mean, and that was about 8 years ago. But still, you can still get lucky. I'm thinking in particular of, you know, it's not even. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all you guys, you know, we've all had experiences like that. I mean, Van, Secca Funk, if you're watching, I don't know if you're into Psych. I know you've had some amazing thrift store finds, man, and flea market finds, and some of the jazz stuff you picked up just goes to show, man, you can still get lucky. As we speak, I'm buying a collection of mainly 80s and 90s shoegaze and early goth stuff. There's like Nick Cave and Sonic Youth, all sorts, Pixies. Anyway, a whole collection, about 300 albums. I'm buying a lot for £100, so that should be interesting. So I'll probably post a video about that at some point. Not sure whether I'm going to keep them all. It's bands like Swans. My brother's mad on Swans, and I do like what I've heard. They're quite scary. It's an interesting one now. The Bonzo Dog Band, or as they were originally called, the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. Great novelty band. I mean, just brilliant. Viv Stanch, I'm a massive fan of the Bonzos. Obviously, as a kid, growing up hearing these albums was pretty, you could identify with it. It's very funny. And, you know, it's not adult humour at all, really. It's all very, very nice. Neil Innes there, of course, dressed in some weird shit. And of course, yeah, I mean, amazing cover. Really good. Yeah, this is my favourite Bonzos album. I only made 5, and what's beautiful is it comes with the booklet as well, which has got all sorts of crazy, random things going on. Really great band, and obviously there wasn't a lot of bands doing stuff like this then. It must have cost quite a lot of money, and it's on the beautiful original Liberty label. I love that turquoise label, stereo pressing. So yeah, I've got all the Bonzos stuff. If anyone's interested in seeing my Bonzos collection, hit me up. I'd be more than happy to talk about the Bonzo Dog Band. Big fan of theirs. But this is their most psychedelic album, definitely. Oh, and I don't think I even said what it was called. The Donut in Granny's Greenhouse, which is British slang for toilet. 1968, Liberty Records, second album, beautiful. And they were highly influenced by the Mothers, according to Neil Innes at this point. It's quite apparent. Another classic, this could also be an early prog album, really. The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, what a sleeve. Even, well, the back as well. Brilliant. I love this album, it's just trippy as hell. Crazy jazzy shit going on. Vincent Crane on drums, who was in Atomic Rooster later on. Carl Palmer on drums. just amazing. Very, very psychedelic and very experimental. This is an original stereo pressing on the legendary track label. Any original track pressings are rare now. I have some stuff. I still would like to get some nice copies of the Hendrix stuff, which I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, awesome album. Again, this isn't strictly a Psych album, but I sort of put it in there. And also because I wanted to name check it. Big Star 1000, I know you showed this in one of your recent videos. Songs for a Tailor by Jack Bruce, great album. I think if it weren't for Jack Bruce, I probably wouldn't like Cream as much. I know that's probably a blasphemous thing to say. I'm not the biggest Eric Clapton fan. I always preferred Peter Green as a guitarist, but Jack Bruce was just perfect for Cream. Not only his singing, but his bass playing was incredible as well. And this, his first solo album, I think it does have some psychedelic elements. It's very jazzy as well. It's really good. And there you go, there's the Pete Brown credit. He wrote all the lyrics for it. Brilliant lyrics they are too. It's getting quite hard to find this now, but you can still get them, you know. I think it's sold quite a lot at the time, and yeah, lovely original stereo pressing. That's definitely one worth getting. And some of his other albums are good. The second one was actually recorded in '65. It came out in 1970, called Things We Like. It's a straight up jazz album, really good. Jack Bruce is playing double bass on it. John McLaughlin's on it. Dick Hextall-Smith. Really good album, and it's got a great cover of him sitting in a field with a big plate of bangers and mash and some dogs around him. Awesome. But yeah, great album. Hand in hand with that, of course, goes Disraeli Gears by Cream, my favourite Cream album. Oh, it's made my camera go a bit funny, isn't it? No, I think I'm seeing things. Awesome album. Great cover, of course, as well. I don't think I need to say much about this. It's original stereo pressing on the beautiful Reaction label. Very short-lived label. I think all in all there was only 3 or 4 albums on the label. Yeah, the first 3 Cream albums are all good, really. Fresh Cream's a great blues album. And the one after this, Wheels of Fire, I love the studio half, but the live half, I think the Cream live, you know, I'm sure if you were there it was amazing, but to listen to, goes on a bit for me, you know, too much twiddling. That sounds really bad, because I love twiddling, but I don't know, it's, you know, I've got to be in the right mood for it. I think it does help if you're high to listen to that stuff. So yeah, Disraeli Gears. Another unusual one, The Deviants, were led by Mick Farren and Twink. This is their 3rd album, just called The Deviants. Crazy cover, non-gatefold. This is how it came in England. It's the original pressing on Transatlantic. This is very rare. Sad to say I don't have the booklet with it, but I love the Transatlantic label. I love that design. So yeah, that's a really nice copy. And this was their last album. They only made 3 albums, and then Mick Farren split, and they sort of morphed into the Pink Fairies. Really heavy Psych album, really good. Highly recommended. I think on the reissues it's called The Deviants 3, it's the 3rd album. The Tooth is great as well, the first one. I've got that as well, but I prefer this album slightly. This is a very jazzy album, but I thought it's worth showing just for the cover. Bob Downs was a sort of free jazz musician based in London. He had a band called Open Music. His first album on Philips is a very free album. This is the second one. It was on MFP, which was a really low budget label. So this is quite easy to find. It's very, very jazzy, but there's no free avant-garde elements in there really. It's more sort of psychedelic jazz, if you can imagine, quite funky as well. And you've got a great lineup. You've got Chris Spedding, Ray Russell, Harry Miller, Laurie Allen, Alan Rushton, Derek Hogg. Awesome lineup. And the concept, if you will, behind this album was that it was all the lyrics were written on a day when Bob Downs, who plays sax and sings on this album and flute, and his lyricist Robert Cockburn were just hanging around London writing lyrics all day, and I think that's how this album came about. So it's on the MFP label. It's not too hard to find. I've seen quite a few copies over the years. Yeah, you get it for about £30, which is much. I mean, he did an album for Vertigo on the Swell label. That's worth about 300. This is the only album of his I have. Another classic, Family, Music in a Doll's House. I absolutely love Family. Bandstand is one of my top albums, but obviously this fits more into this video. This is their first album. Just a psychedelic masterpiece, produced by Nick Mason as well. Just brilliant. Sorry, not Nick Mason, David Mason. Brilliant album. Really trippy and all over the place. And this is an original stereo pressing. As you can see, with the early pressings, they had them in mono sleeves and they'd put a stereo sticker on them, probably because there were more monos made. This is from 1968, so it's around the crossover time over here. And of course, it's on the beautiful Tricolour Reprise label. How beautiful is that? Really nice album. Great stuff. And you know, quite often Family are forgotten about these days, which is sad because they were just great. Really unusual. I mean, obviously Roger Chapman's vocals were unlike anything else, and John Whitney was they're a great partnership, the two of them. Really good band, really good album. It's another unusual one. This is one of the rarer albums I own. Allegedly this only sold about 300 copies on release. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. This is the only copy I've ever seen. I was first attracted to this album by the cover, shall we say. I was quite young when I discovered this album, because I saw it on CD. Basically, when I was a kid, obviously I couldn't really afford CDs, so my dad would take me to the local library, and you used to be able to order CDs, and you could rent them out like you would a book. And this is one of those albums. The Cheerful Insanity of Giles and Fripp. King Crimson related, yes, that's Robert Fripp there, that's Michael Giles, his brother Peter Giles. So Michael and Robert obviously went on to form King Crimson after this album. This came out in '68 on the Duran label. Obviously, it was the sleeve I was attracted to. Just look at that, look at Michael Giles's face. It's almost Monty Python-esque, and with a title like that, because obviously, when I've got a really itchy nose, sorry. When I was quite young, obviously I was into Zappa and that, and I liked humorous music, like I say, Bonzo Dogman and that, so I thought, this is probably going to be quite like that, and it is in a way. Some of it is like Monty Python, it's bizarre, and then some of it is like early prog and jazz. It's a mono pressing. I'd love to get a stereo, if anyone wants to swap. Yeah, I mean, this album's very rare. I think the mono is actually rarer than the stereo, or maybe both about the same. But this is mint. And it has the original mono in the sleeve too. Very odd album, but it is often, again, there's a couple of sort of psyche tracks on there. And I just thought, I've got to put this in there because it's just such an awesome album. And in the States it had a completely different sleeve. I don't know if any of you guys have got one of those or one of these. This was also repressed in 1970, that's a bit easier to find, but this is the very first pressing. It only ever came out in mono on the first pressing. So that's that. This one isn't strictly psych, but it's definitely got psychedelic influences. It's more of an instrumental funk album, really. But Johnny Harris Movements. I did my funk and soul video recently and forgot to slip this in there, so I thought I'd put it in here now. To me, it is a psychedelic funk album. It's got some great psych bits on there. It's got Stepping Stones, of course, which is just a heavy as hell funk tune. But yeah, Johnny Harris was a producer and arranger. He mainly worked with Shirley Bassey, funked up a couple of her albums. The one with Spinning Wheel on it's particularly good. But this album is just phenomenal. It's just a fucking, sorry to swear, brilliant album. I'd recommend it highly. Seriously. It's mainly instrumental, and there's a couple of covers. There's a great cover of Light My Fire on it. A really nice cover of Painted Black, which you can hardly recognise from the original. It's really good album. Another great musician who sadly passed away recently, Keith Hartley, the Keith Hartley Band. Again, this isn't strictly a psych album, it's a psychedelic blues album, shall we say. The Battle of Northwest 6, a great album. It's the only Keith Hartley one I have, and I actually originally bought it because on the map at the back you've got Stanmore, Edgware and Pinner. Now, Pinner is just down the road from where I live now. Stanmore is not far. Edgware is where I was actually born. So that was like, oh man. You know, they're not very well known places, really. They're small places. Pinner's famous because Elton John was from Pinner, you know. And yeah, obviously Harrow, where I really live, is quite well known. Harrow's got a famous school and everything, but most people wouldn't have heard of those places. Anyway, yeah, so that's why I picked this album up, and I loved it. Really good jams on this album, and it's on the Duran label. I love that label design. It's got an old this was a BBC library copy. It's got the old stamp on there, but really nice. They obviously didn't play it much. Really nice example of that. And see, the Duran late sort of 68, 69 pressings have got this hole in the sleeve, so they could use it for mono or stereo. And obviously, it's got the blue in the sleeve. That's how you know it's a stereo. There you go. Another great album by a great band, Hawkwind. I thought I'd pick this one because it's their earliest. My favourite album is probably Space Ritual, followed by this and In Search of Space on a par, really. I love Hawkwind. This is a great album. 1970, first album, trippy as hell. Look at that. Very spacey. They were miles ahead of their time. It's the second pressing. The first one's on the Turquoise label, but allegedly there's only a few hundred of those were pressed. I've never seen one. I've seen them on the internet for a lot of money. So that's that, Hawkwind. Just realised this video is getting quite long. Not strictly English, but let's put it in that category because he was based over here. Of course, Hendrix. This is the only original track press. Well, no, actually, this is it. This is an original pressing on track. Excellent album, of course. Excellent cover. Of course, Hendrix didn't approve of this cover, and I think it's currently out of print with this cover now. Gorgeous 60s chicks naked. Brilliant. What more could you want on a sleeve? Yeah, it's. I don't need to say much about this album. My favourite album is actually Axis Boulder's Love, but I've showed this because it's an original track pressing. I've got the only other original one I've got is Band of Gypsies in the puppet sleeve, but that's not really a Psych album. I'd put that more as a funky rock album if you want to be fussy. But yeah, there you go, original track. Not a bad copy. I've had a few of these and they're usually battered, but this is the best one I've seen. I got this for about £30 many years ago now, and of course since then it's shot up in price even more. Like you can see, it's a little bit tatty, but it's impossible to find this in mint condition, so I'm pleased with that. Another one that's not strictly, it's kind of a blues album really, but again, Jethro Tull's first album this is my favourite Jethro Tull album. Really nice blues album, but it's still got some Psych in there. Great cover, of course. And this is another one with a really wide spine, if you can see there. That is pretty wide. And it's on the beautiful original pink label. I love the Island labels, they're just beautiful. I've actually got a t-shirt with this on it, with this logo on it. Love it. It's a stereo, not a mono. So that's great. So I just got to put it back in the sleeve, folks. Right, next up, The Kinks. Not often associated with psychedelia, but I'd say this album's pretty much in there. Great album, Village Green Preservation Society. Now, of course, this album is very well known, but at the time, no one bought it. It was their lowest selling album to date, which I still don't understand, because it is just flawless. Every track on this is brilliant. I only just got this actually. It's not the very first pressing. First English pressings are incredibly expensive now. This is I think this is from the late 70s, so it's still a nice one. It's still on Pi. So I mean, even I've seen these for 50 quid just for this pressing. This is a mint copy. I got it for a tenner. The one before this, Something Else, is great as well. But I thought I'd show this because it's a nice Pi pressing. Next, my favourite Psych album of all time, without a doubt, hands down, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Again, I've only just recently got one of these. It's a nice Columbia pressing, not the very first. It's an early 70s one. Even these are expensive now. But yeah, as I was talking about Sid earlier, this for me is, I prefer this Pink Floyd to what Pink Floyd became. I still love Dark Side of the Moon and everything, but this is just something else. I just love this album. It just floors me every time. It's just brilliant. I'll show you guys the label, because I'm sure you might want to see it. So as you can see, it's not the very first pressing, but it's still a really nice one to have, and again, hard to find in this condition. This was a tenner as well. Yeah, I know. Did alright there, I think. Another psychedelic gem, which is up there for me as well. This was my mum's favourite album, which was how I heard it, because if it weren't for that, I probably wouldn't have heard it for a long time. So I've known this since I was a kid. SF Sorrow by the Pretty Things, of course. Now this is a lost gem, sort of in the same vein of Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies, you know, which I haven't got, which is why I'm not showing it, but that's another one of my favourites. I don't have one. Yeah, so Pretty Things were obviously quite an R&B sort of group, and then started getting involved in the psychedelic scene, and there you go. Need I say more? And this is like the first, some say the first rock opera. Apparently Pete Townsend got the idea to do Tommy from this album because it's all like a story. And look at that. And yes, it's the first pressing. This is a stereo one. And it's in lovely condition. I've had this for years now. I think I bought this when I was still in high school for about £20. I mean, it's shot up in value since then, of course. And I haven't seen another one since. But yeah, absolutely brilliant album, just brilliant. Got to show a Stones album. I was going to show my copy of Satanic Majesty's Request, but I thought I'd show Between the Buttons because I prefer this, and I'd still count this as a Psych album. Really underrated, this album is. As you can see, this copy's a bit beat. It's an original stereo. The record's nice, just the sleeve's a bit knackered, so I'm after a better one, but these are just getting so hard to find now. But I just love this album. It's got some really good Psych tracks on it. Yesterday's Papers, Please Go Home, Connection, She Smiled Sweetly. It's a great album. You know, a lot of people were disappointed with Satanic Majesties. I love that album too. But if you want, you know, decent Psych with short tracks and stuff, yeah, get it. Again, these were more of a blues band, but I'd still sort of categorise this it's a semi-Psych album if you want to be technical. Savoy Brown, I love this sleeve as well. This was another album that I discovered when I was a kid, because I was given a box of tapes by my dad's friend, and this was in there, the original cassette, which I still have, and I loved it. And it's only recently I've managed to get one of these, because they're very desirable now. And this is on Decca. It's the first pressing with the box logo, 1970. So for people that want to know about the Decca label and that, it was around 1970 they started using the box logo. It was late 69, early 1970. So that's a definite first pressing there, and it's got the sleeve as well. Really nice blues. It's you know, it's predominantly blues, but there's some Psych bits in there. Great track called Poor Girl, Money Can't Save Your Soul. It's a really good album. Another set of legends, Traffic. It's the second album. I don't have Mr. Fantasy, unfortunately. I'd like to, but I just can't find it. This has got the book as well, which is really nice, because most of them were taken out, obviously. It's an original stereo pressing. I actually prefer this album to Dear Mr. Fantasy anyway. These two albums are heavily psychedelic. Obviously their later stuff's quite funky, 70s stuff. There you go, beautiful Island label again. Really nice album that. Another set of legends, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Mark Bolan. I wanted to show Unicorn, but I don't have it. Unicorn is my favourite T-Rex album. Obviously at the time these guys were just unlike anything else, just amazing. My mum told me about when she saw them in Norway in 1970, that must have been incredible. Just an original stereo pressing, and it's got the lyric insert too, which you don't see that often, so that's a really nice thing to have with it. And it's on the beautiful Regal Zonophone label. Really nice. So I only had two T-Rex albums, this and Beard of Stars. They're just so rare. I'm still after Electric Warrior and the first T-Rex, so you just can't find them. But that's a really nice example, because it's a textured sleeve. You see it's a bit worn on the top, but overall it's really nice. I'm well pleased with that. And last but not least, The Who, of course, were getting in there with the whole thing. Another album I can't mention because I haven't got it is Odgun's Nut Gone Flake by Small Face is another one of my favourites. I just haven't got. I have got one actually, but there's no sleeve and it's battered, so no point in showing it really. Who Sell Out, brilliant album. One of my favourite, probably my favourite Who album actually. It's a stereo pressing as well, original. Need I say more? The Stuff of Legend, really nice. And that's it, guys. Actually, I've just realised one that I've forgotten. I'm just going to get it, 1 second. Where is it? Yes, how could I forget this? Psychedelic folk. Almost on a par with Tyrannosaurus Rex. Incredible string band, The Hangman's Beautiful Daughter. My favourite of their albums. And as you can see, it's got the original stereo sticker on it. Again, this is in a mono sleeve. Stereo pressing. With the insert. Can't believe it. I still can't believe I've got one of these. The inserts are insanely rare. It's like, you know, it's all the lyrics. I got this in a shop in Portobello Road last year for £30. That is a bargain because the vinyl is mint as well. And it's on the... Hang on, let's get it out here. It's on the original Elektra label as well. I definitely got a bargain there. I bought it in a shop in Portobello Road as well. They put it out that morning, so I think it would have gone if I hadn't got there. So that's that, guys. That's the highlights of my English psychedelic stuff. That's it for today, guys. I'm off out tonight to party, even though I've got work tomorrow morning. Oh well, you only live once. Enjoy, guys. Enjoy your weekend, and thanks for watching. Peace.